Welcome Pokemon fans and glitch hunters to the third and final installment of our Generation 1 Glitch Marathon. Last time we left off explaining how you can use certain glitch Pokemon to give Pokemon moves they can't normally learn, and today we're finally picking back up with even more move-related mayhem. While we're on the subject of Pokemon moves, there's one move that's a glitch in itself. It's an easy trick to pull off, but it usually results in the game crashing.
First, you'll need a Ditto. Battle a wild Pokemon and transform into it. Then, while transformed, switch to the first move your Ditto knows with the second move. After the battle ends, run into another wild Pokemon. This time, before you try to select an attack, go to your bag and use a PP restoring item on the first move. Otherwise, if you try to fight before you do this, the game will probably freeze. Once you've restored the move's PP, you can try to attack. Ditto's move list will appear to be blank, but the first move will have odd stats and glitchy type information. If you use this move, the game will completely bug out. This can result in any number of different effects, such as odd corrupted statuses, super long HP bars that wrap around the screen, or endless attacks. Try it more than once and see what you can get to happen. Again, after the battle ends, the game usually crashes, so make sure you save before attempting this. Transform is a pretty buggy move and can have other weird effects. If you use it on a wild Spearow before it uses Mirror move, it will copy you and use Transform. Its name in battle will still be Spearow, but if you catch it, you'll actually catch a Ditto. It's important that your Ditto has a higher speed stat than the enemy's Spearow though, or else it will use Mirror move before you use Transform, and it will fail. There's even an in-battle glitch that can completely reset a Pokemon's PP. To perform this, you'll need a Pokemon that knows a move that causes an auto-select, such as Bind, Clamp, Fire Spin, Hyper Beam, Metronome, or Wrap. Make sure this Pokemon has pretty low speed, or at least low speed relative to the Pokemon that it's facing, so that the opponent can land a hit before you do. You'll need to face a trainer that's prone to switching Pokemon, like any of the Jugglers or Agatha of the Elite Four. Lastly, make sure the move that will be used for the glitch is at 1 PP. Battle the trainer and then use the move. If done correctly, the opponent will land a hit and then your Pokemon will attack. If the trainer then switches Pokemon, your Pokemon will use the move again automatically, even though it's technically at 0 PP. After the move subsides, the move's PP will wrap around and become 63, even if that number is higher than the move's normal max PP.
There are actually a ton of buggy moves in the first-gen games. For example, Focus Energy, an attack designed to increase critical hit rate, can actually lower it for certain moves, like Slash, Crab Hammer, and Razor Leaf. Not only that, but even for moves that it does increase the critical hit rate, it can still lower it if the Pokemon doesn't have higher speed than its opponent. For Pokemon with extremely low speed, Focus Energy actually makes it impossible for them to land a critical hit. Dire Hit, an item with the same effect, also has this problem.
Another oversight occurs with the moves Recover, Soft Boiled, and Rest. If the difference between the user's current and maximum HP is 255, 511, or any other integer that can be represented by the hexadecimal format XXFF, the move will fail. When a Pokemon is paralyzed, their speed is usually cut. However, if you use the move Agility afterwards, not only does it restore your Pokemon's speed to normal, but it even gives them a boost on top of that. If the Pokemon uses Hyper Beam and is frozen immediately afterwards, before it can recharge, another glitch can occur. If the opponent Pokemon uses Haste to thaw out your Pokemon, it will defrost, but will still be unable to move until it faints, even if a Fire-type move is used later. Finally, if a move like Explosion or Self-Destruct is used on a substitute, and the substitute breaks, the user will not faint as normal, even though their sprite will disappear. It will reappear next turn, however, and the battle will continue as normal after that.
Though the ability to link up and trade in battle with your friends is one of the namesake features of the Pokemon franchise, in the first generation it didn't come without its flaws. The simplest way to glitch up the link cable experience is to simply unplug the cable from one of the Game Boys and watch the chaos unfold. There are other craftier ways of tricking the game into desyncing though, and unsurprisingly they involve moves that already have glitches associated with them. Fire Spin and Mirror move.
First, of course, you'll need to have one person use a Pokemon that knows Fire Spin, and the other will need a Pokemon that knows Mirror move. This time, make sure the Pokemon that knows Mirror move has higher speed than the Pokemon that knows Fire Spin. On the first move, player 1 should use Fire Spin, and player 2 should use some other move. Then, once the Pokemon can attack again, player 2 should use Mirror move, and player 1 should use some other move. Once Mirror move Fire Spin hits, the Pokemon that knows Fire Spin should switch out to something that can be defeated in one hit. This is where the desync starts to happen. On one screen, Mirror move will fail and the Pokemon won't faint. On the other screen, the Pokemon will faint, and all kinds of glitchy effects will start occurring. Glitch Pokemon showing up, Pokemon using glitchy moves, all kinds of neat stuff. Luckily, all this can be remedied at any time simply by shutting the games off. Another well-known Link Cable Club trick involves cloning Pokémon. What you'll need is a Pokémon you want to clone on one game, and a Pokémon that will be erased on the other, so one you don't care too much about. Link up the games and start a trade between the two Pokémon. Only on the game where the Pokémon you want to clone is coming from, turn off the game as soon as the trade ends and both games say please wait. On the other game, don't turn off the power until the message trade completed appears. Now the cloned Pokémon exists on both save files. Cloning can also be performed using the PC, but this is way more risky as it can cause your entire save file to corrupt. Since the game needs to save every time you switch boxes in the Gen 1 games, and it saves your box Pokémon before it saves your party Pokémon, by depositing a Pokémon into the PC, switching the box, and turning the power off at precisely the right moment while the game saves, your Pokémon will still be in both your party and your box once you load the save file. Just be careful, turning the power off too early or too late can cause the save file to corrupt entirely. I suggest turning it off right after selecting which box you're going to switch to. Some prefer this method to the link cable cloning glitch, even though it's more risky, because you can clone up to 5 Pokémon at a time this way, rather than just one. If you manage to leave the trading or battling area, by having an entire party of poison Pokémon with you for example and allowing them all to faint as you walk around the little room, some pretty crazy stuff can happen. First of all, you'll be unable to save the game, since your save option will still be replaced with reset, as it is in normal in Cable Club conditions. You can, however, still save by changing boxes in your PC. During this glitch, all trainers in the game are now replaced with a nameless trainer that has the player's battle sprite, as if you were still battling someone in a link battle. However, since the game can't access the other trainer's data, the trainers won't have names, and their behavior and Pokémon are controlled by the game automatically depending on their trainer class. Or so I've read. Unfortunately, when I tried this without trading or battling the other player first, every single trainer had the same level 0'N that crashed the game when it tried to attack. When I did trade with the other trainer before escaping the room, every trainer had a slightly corrupted version of my opponent's team, with the exception of my rival, who had my opponent's team verbatim. If you lost the battle with the other player before escaping the room, their Pokemon's HP and PP will still be saved when you try to battle your rival or Bruno, who is also reported to have your opponent's exact team, so their Pokemon won't be healed or at full health. However, you can still run into normal wild Pokemon during this glitch, and resetting sets everything back to normal regardless of whether you saved using the PC or not.
However, on Yellow version, you cannot exit the Link Cable Club room using a poison Pokemon, since Game Freak became aware of this glitch and made it impossible for overworld status effects to affect your Pokemon when linked to another game. So if you want to perform this glitch on Yellow version, you'll need to perform the Glitch City trick first. I'll get to that in a bit though, so stay tuned.
First, you'll need the Pokemon that evolves with an Evolution Stone. Then second, you'll need an Exeggutor if you're trying to evolve a Pokemon that needs a Moonstone, a MissingNo with the hex number of 20 to evolve Pokemon that need a Firestone, a Psyduck to evolve Pokemon that need a Leaf Stone, a Growlithe to evolve Pokemon that need a Thunderstone, or an Onix to evolve Pokemon that need a Water Stone. Make sure the Pokemon that you want to evolve is close to leveling up, and that it's at the top of your party. The corresponding Stone Pokemon, in this case our Growlithe, can be anywhere else as long as it's in the party. Now, we're gonna get into a trainer battle with a trainer that has more than one Pokemon in their party. Have Eevee defeat the first Pokemon and level up. Now, switch out to Growlithe and defeat all the remaining Pokemon. After the battle, Eevee will evolve without ever having to use a Thunderstone. Though many sources claim this is the only way to evolve Pikachu on Yellow version, I actually couldn't get it to evolve any Pokemon on Yellow this way, so unfortunately this isn't true. This glitch works because two operations, the one that detects the used item and the one that detects which Pokemon is in battle, happen to share the same variable. This means that the action of using the stone and the action of sending a Pokemon with the same hex number as the stone into battle complete the same line of code the same way, and it tricks the game into thinking you're using an evolution stone when you're not. Speaking of Pikachu, in Yellow version there's a well-known oversight that makes Pikachu like you a lot more much more quickly. Aside from Pikachu being more friendly and adorable instead of a grumpy little butthead, this also allows you to pick up the gift Pokemon in Cerulean City and Route 24 sooner. All you have to do is use a potion on Pikachu over and over again. Pikachu's HP should be full, and the message it won't have any effect should appear. This makes Pikachu more friendly because healing items still add happiness values to Pikachu's maximum happiness, regardless of whether or not Pikachu needs healing. And Game Freak forgot to use an exception handler to stop the player from increasing Pikachu's happiness when his HP is already full. When you run out of usable Pokemon, normally the game sends you back to a Pokemon Center and heals your party. However, a certain glitch makes it possible to walk around with all fainted Pokemon. First, all you need is a party of Pokemon with a bunch fainted and a bunch still ready to battle. Deposit all the non-fainted Pokemon into the PC, and you'll be able to walk 3 steps with fainted Pokemon before the game blacks out and returns you to a Pokemon Center. However, saving the game and turning it off and back on again resets the number of steps, so you can take 3 more. By saving and resetting every 2 steps, it's possible to get into a wild Pokemon battle with no usable Pokemon. Sadly, nothing that interesting happens, you just black out as soon as the battle starts. But hey, it's the closest thing you'll ever find to a zombie in a Pokemon game. This is a glitch that actually impacted Kanto's history, and is the reason the Safari Zone wasn't included in the Generation 2 games. First, enter the Safari Zone and then try to leave. Tell them no, you don't want to leave early, and walk back inside. Now, save the game and reset. After restarting, try to leave again. This time, the "Welcome to the Safari Zone" dialogue will start. Tell them you don't want to join the hunt, and leave the building. Now, fly to any other city and walk around until you get the PA Ding Dong message. The game will bring you back to the Safari Zone entrance. When you leave, depending on where you were when the message appeared, you'll find yourself on a map with glitchy pixels. There are a few places that definitely result in a glitch map. Route 20, Cycling Road, the Indigo Plateau, and Route 23. Others, like Fuchsia City, Cinnabar Island, and most other cities, will just result in you exiting the Safari Zone entrance onto a normal map. This glitch is a fun one to experiment with, because different maps yield different results, and you can try them all for yourself. So what causes this to happen? Well, there are invisible map objects called warps, and these make it possible to go through a door and end up on another map. Without warps, doors are just map tiles, pictures of a door that don't actually do anything. The warps are what make them act as doors. When you leave the Safari Zone, the warp on the door to return you outside is programmed to take you to warp number 4 of whichever map you were last on. When you leave the Safari Zone entrance normally, this map takes you back out to Fuchsia City, because it was the last map you were on. However, when you trick the game into bringing you back to the Safari Zone entrance from an area other than Fuchsia, the entrance takes you to warp number 4 of whichever map you were last on. If the map you were on doesn't have 4 doors, or 4 warp points, then it won't have a warp number 4, so the game cannot load a real map. Unfortunately, unlike MissingNo, maps don't have an error handler, so the game has no choice but to load the player in a heavily corrupted version of whichever map they were previously on. If the map does have 4 warp points, then you will come out of whichever door is labeled number 4 on that map. In corrupted maps, wild Pokemon data is preserved, and the attributes of the source map are also preserved. This is why if you get the PA Ding Dong message while spinning around on the arrows in Viridian City Gym, your character will spin like that everywhere until you reset the game, or even after if you save while spinning, which I don't recommend. If you get the message while jumping over a ledge in midair, you can walk through walls. Cycling Road causes the player to constantly move downwards, some areas of Rock Tunnel cause the screen to remain dark, and so on and so forth. However, map objects like signposts, sprites, and warps will not appear, or freeze the game if activated, due to the corrupted map data. You also cannot walk from one map to another, because a corrupted map will no longer be linked to whatever maps usually surround it. This is why the game crashes if you walk too far in any direction on any glitch map, because you've left the map and the game cannot load another one. In Yellow version, for some reason loading a corrupted map will cause Pikachu's AI to bug out, and its walking pattern will desync from yours. If you link up and enter the Link Cable Club before getting the PA message on Yellow, that is the only way you can escape the Link Cable Club and perform the previously mentioned glitch. However, to avoid reloading on a corrupted Link Cable Club map, rather than exiting out the Safari Zone entrance area, you'll need to enter the Safari Zone again instead of walking out the front door, and use Dig to escape back to a Pokemon Center. Flying to any city will load that city's map properly and correctly, thus causing any glitchy side effects to cease. It's recommended to never ever save inside any glitch map.
Now, as mentioned before, using this glitch can allow you to walk through walls, which is necessary to get into the Indigo Plateau without a boulder badge. So, now I'm going to explain how to do it.
First of all of the Pokemon you have with you need to be poisoned. It's recommended you only bring one with you to make this easier, and make sure you have a lot of healing items on you. Start the Glitch City glitch as usual. However, make sure that once you're inside the Safari Zone, you count the number of steps you take carefully. You get 500 steps before the PA alerts you and drags you back to the entrance, and you'll need to manage them carefully in order to get this to work. If you don't feel like counting each individual step, note that the effects of poison show up every 5 steps, so you can count by 5s. Carefully, while still keeping track of your number of steps, follow the steps of the glitch. Exit the Safari Zone, tell them you don't want to end the game, go back in, save, reset. Leave, tell them you don't want to join the hunt, and exit the building. Now, I recommend staying in Fuchsia City and going near the ledges around the Pokemon Center. Remember, you should have only a poison Pokemon with you, so keep using potions on them to keep them from fainting. Make sure on your 499th step, you're facing a ledge. Step forward on your 500th step and the PA will alert you in midair. When the game loads again, you will still be in midair and you'll be able to walk through walls. However, going through doors this way will crash the game, so you need to let all the Pokemon you have with you faint from the poison at this point. This will bring you back to the last Pokemon Center you used, and you will now be able to walk through walls without the game crashing. There are a few things to note about this glitch, as it's very difficult to correctly pull off. First, in order for this to work and for you to accurately count your steps, you cannot use your bicycle at all during this glitch. Second, once you performed it successfully, make sure you do so on a map that has at least 4 warps, or you will load in a glitch city and it won't do you very much good to be able to walk through walls on a corrupted map. Third, do not walk off of any map into the border tiles. This will cause the game to crash. While you're still able to walk through walls, you can try a few cool things. As mentioned earlier, you can get into the Indigo Plateau without a boulder badge, and you can try a ton of other fun things. Personally, I like to use it to get into Cerulean Cave early. When you're done having your fun, just save your game and reset, or enter any doorway, and you'll be able to walk around as normal again. Just make sure you don't save inside of any walls. You don't want to ruin your save file by loading in a place that immobilizes you. I also don't recommend going into the grass outside of Pallet Town, because it's not actually part of the map. It's a border tile, and walking into it causes the game to crash.
These next few things aren't really glitches as much as they're general mistakes. They're not caused by programming errors, they're caused by errors with in-game continuity, so I'm just going to go over them really quick.
First, at the very start of the game, when Professor Oak is giving his little speech about the world of Pokemon, he shows you a picture of a Nidorino. However, it's Nidorino's cry that plays. Whoops! Not a great first impression of the Pokemon universe, huh? Another mistake comes from a translation error. In the Cinnabar Island laboratory, a man will trade you an electrode for a Raichu. After the trade is complete, the man will claim that your Raichu evolved. This is because our red and blue versions here were actually translated versions of the Japanese blue version, and in that version you trade the guy a Kadabra for his Graveler, and as you know, both Pokemon evolve by trading. However, the Pokemon locations for our games are based on the Japanese red and green instead, and in those games you trade a Raichu for the guy's Electrode. So when the localization team was changing the Pokemon locations to match the first 2 versions, they forgot to change the dialogue that went along with this trade too, and just translated it as is. At least this is just a harmless little mistake. Still, gotta wonder what that Raichu evolved into.
That's it for the glitches that can be performed in American copies of Red, Blue, and Yellow, but there are a few glitches that can only be performed in Japanese copies, and it's a good thing that they fixed these because they're pretty game-breaking.
In the original Japanese Red and Green games, just like our copies, you can use the select button to rearrange Pokemon in your party, items in your bag, and even your Pokemon's moves in battle. In the Japanese version, however, you could actually swap an item in your bag for a Pokemon in your party, because the B button would bypass the list termination system. This causes the game to translate the information from the next written pointer as if it was item or Pokemon data instead, and thus the information from another set of RAM addresses is forced into the Pokemon or item data template instead, which can result in a ton of crazy side effects. A classic example is the Doko Kashiora door glitch, which translates to, "Where is it?" In this glitch, at the beginning of the game the player has 1 Pokemon and access to 2 items. First, the potion given to you by the Mart employee, and second, Oak's parcel, which is given to you at the Pokemart. You should pick up the potion first and then the parcel second, so that it is the second item in your bag. Now, run into a wild Pokemon. Open up the items menu and press the select button on Oak's parcel. Press B to return to the battle interface and open up the party menu. Press the A button on your Pokemon to switch it with Oak's parcel, turning it into the glitch Pokemon Nidapami, which is the Japanese equivalent of Charizard''M. Now, you can either try to battle the wild Pokemon with the Nidapami, or you can run away. It's recommended to just run, because if your opponent uses any stat-lowering moves, the game will freeze. It's important to note though that you must at least access the fight menu before you try to run, or the game will get stuck in an endless loop with the player blacking out after the battle ends. This is where things get tricky. After triggering the glitch, the next warp location for entrances is set to a constant, depending on the map location of the player when they choose to exploit the glitch. The value of which location the entrances are set to is decreased by 1 every 4 steps, and changes the value of the map number address to D2DD. Sounds confusing, right? Well, basically, if you walk a certain number of steps after performing the glitch, and then enter a warp, you can manipulate where the warp will take you. The most well-known route most people take involves walking around your rival's house in Pallet Town for 83 to 87 steps, and entering the door on your 84th or 88th step, which will then take you to Route 7. From there, if you walk directly to the Pokémon Center, enter and exit it, and then walk directly to the department store, you can end up in the Indigo Plateau. This method is popular among speedrunners because it lets you essentially beat the entire game in under a minute.
Though this glitch can only be performed in the original Japanese game, something similar can occur in American copies of Red, Blue, and Yellow. I'm hesitant to even call this a glitch because it's not really a programming error so much as it is the player abusing the save feature in the game, but nevertheless I'll give you the rundown.
First, you'll need a game with no save file, so if your game already has a save file, you'll need to delete the existing one by holding up, B, and select on the title screen. Now, start a new game and choose the name Ash for your character and Blue for your rival. Once the intro is over, walk downstairs and stand near the door, and then open your menu and select the save option. It will ask you if you want to save the game. Here, select yes, and then as soon as the yes/no box disappears, turn the power off. If done incorrectly, the game will either save normally and your save file will be there, uncorrupted, or the entire save file will corrupt and be deleted. If either of these things happen, you'll need to start over from scratch. However, if done correctly, when the game loads you should have an entire party of glitched Pokémon. Now, switch the second glitched Pokémon in your party with the 10th. Yes, the 10th! Scroll all the way down past where cancel would be, even past the text box in order to do this. Next, switch the 11th Pokémon with the 9th. Once you've switched these Pokémon around, press B to exit the party menu and check your bag. Now, scroll down, all the way down until the cursor stops flashing. Press the A button and tons of items will appear. Here, you'll want to switch the second item here with the one below it. If you can't move your cursor, just carefully tap the A button until it'll let you. Some of these items have names so long the game has to scroll in visible text, which is what causes this delay. Next, you'll see a Master Ball and an Ultra Ball. Before doing anything else, select the Ultra Ball and then press B once it gives you the usual options. This should clear up some of the glitchy pixels on the screen and remove a lot of the lag. Now, between the two balls should be a glitchy item. Press the select button to move it. Keep scrolling down until you find another Master Ball in your bag, and switch the glitchy item with a Master Ball. Select the item and toss 68 of it. Press B to exit your menu again, and now walk out the door. The game will load you in a corrupted version of the Hall of Fame entry room. Ta-da! You've beaten the game in less than a minute. Congratulations! Usually the save file will be deleted in this process, but should it still be functional after the game saves after the credits, have fun playing through the game with a party of super glitched Pokémon and corrupted data everywhere. This glitch was discovered and improved upon by members of the speedrun community, meaning many aspects of this glitch are designed to make this performable quickly. By choosing the names Ash and Blue, the two shortest default names, fewer glitch items with long glitchy names appear in your bag while performing this glitch, making scrolling through items easier and faster since you'll be dealing with less lag. This is also why you should stand near the door when you go to save the game, because your Pokemon will appear poisoned when you corrupt their status data, even though you technically have no Pokemon, so the poison Pokemon animation will make this process take longer if you walk more than 4 steps. When you turn the game off as it's saving at that exact optimal moment, the data for how many Pokemon you have in your party becomes corrupted, which is why you are now carrying over 6 Pokemon with no names or data. When you switch the second glitch Pokemon in your party with the 10th, the byte that holds the amount of items you have is changed, and your bag can now access much more memory than it's supposed to. This is why when you check your bag, you'll be carrying so many glitch items and items that you haven't actually obtained, like Master Balls and so on. These items actually represent the different variables in your save data, your XY coordinates, your rival's name, your trainer ID, and the data for the warp of the room you're in. By switching the glitchy items around and then tossing 68 of them, you're changing the data for the warp in that room to the entrance of the Hall of Fame entry room. The person who discovered this glitch essentially wanted to make it possible to enter GameShark codes without a GameShark, so instead they figured out how to access and edit bytes by corrupting the save file. There's an even faster way to do this, which involves switching fewer items and Pokemon around and even just standing near the stairs in the bedroom. But in order for it to take you where you want to go, you'll need to end up with a very specific trainer ID, which is just the luck of the draw really, so I figured I'd show you guys how to do it the way anyone can replicate it. It should also be noted that while this glitch does work on Red, Blue, and Yellow, this particular version of the glitch is tailored to Yellow's memory locations, and some variables may need to be changed in order to get the same results on Red and Blue. Okay, enough about the American games. Focusing on the Japanese versions again, another glitch associated with the select button to rearrange items in Pokemon can let you manipulate which Pokemon you receive for reviving a fossil in Cinnabar Island. To do this glitch, the player needs to have at least 32 items in their PC and 5 Pokemon in their party. The data of the 5th Pokemon will become corrupted, so don't use a Pokemon you care about. Now, drop off either the Helix or Dome fossils with a scientist. Before returning for the resurrected Pokemon, head to the Pokemon Center and use the PC. Use the select button on the 32nd item in your PC, and exit using the cancel option. Head to the Pokemon Mansion and run into a wild Pokemon. Within the battle, open the Pokemon menu and press A on the 5th Pokemon. This will swap your 32nd PC item with your 5th Pokemon. Run from battle and return to the scientist. Depending on the total experience of the Pokemon you shifted, the Pokemon you receive should be different than the regular Kabuto or Ammonite. Look at who we picked up! It's MissingNo! Or as his name reads in Japanese, Ketsuban. Guess what that translates to in English? Missing number. I know a lot of you are curious about Ketsuban, so let's check this guy out. First of all, his in-party sprite appears to be the same, but he doesn't appear to have any sprite at all when you view his stats. Apparently, he's a normal fighting type Pokemon, at least to this hex number, and it knows Pound and Double Slap. That's a bit different than what we know, right? When I tried to send it into battle, the game crashed. And when I used other Pokemon in battle afterwards, the graphics became scrambled. Even viewing a party Pokemon stats didn't fix it. Flight patterns also got mixed up. For some reason, the game refused to let me fly to Pewter City, but it was just fine with me flying to the Indigo Plateau, which I had never visited before. The cities it wouldn't let me visit seemed to change every time I tried flying, and upon landing I found I could walk through walls. I guess Ketsuban is slightly more volatile than its American counterpart. In order to see if he does cause the same side effects as the MissingNo we know and love, I'd have to try to encounter one in the wild, but the old man trick doesn't seem to work, and trying to encounter it through the mute glitch crashes the game. I guess there's still a lot the internet doesn't know about Ketsuban.
Select bugs can be fun to mess around with, but just be careful. As stated before, you're messing with the RAM, so if done incorrectly, they can corrupt your data.
Not all the glitches in the original games were this massive though. Another little minor glitch in Japanese Red and Green is that if you evolve your Pokemon before delivering Oak's parcel, he will count this as you having caught another Pokemon, and the game will think you already have the Pokedex, which you don't. Since you can't get the Pokedex, the old man will never stop blocking your path, and you won't be able to continue. At least you won't lose too much data since this is right at the beginning of the game though.
That about wraps up our Pokemon Gen 1 Glitch Marathon. Though we've taken a look at dozens and dozens of glitches over the past few videos, there are still more I'm sure I've missed, and ones that haven't even been discovered yet. Game Freak has given us a lot of great games over the years, but no programming team is perfect, and glitches showing up in a final product are almost inevitable. Even though they're technically mistakes, I'm thankful that Game Freak left so many of these for us to find in the first-gen games alone. They actually give us more to enjoy about our favorite games, because there's always more to discover, and these little glimpses into the code actually let us see more about the Pokemon universe. So thanks Game Freak for leaving us so many Easter eggs to find, and thank you guys for watching. Happy glitch hunting!